Hello, okay, today we are learning how to make a propagator. Now a propagator will allow you to help a plant asexually produce. Now we know that if it is asexually produced, it is exactly the same genetically as the parent plant. Now this happens in nature, you learned about this last week, but propagating is how humans can step in and help plants asexually reproduce. So if this can be helpful for farmers, because they can be like, oh, that was a really good batch of corn we did there. Let's snip some of that and we'll use that again to grow the next batch for the next year so we get the same results. Now, all you need to start off with is your trusty water bottle. It doesn't have to be this size, that's fine, but I've cut mine about 2/3 of the way. Yep, you need the lid for this one as well. Okay, I used my label on the bottle to help me make sure it was nice and straight where I cut, and I've put tape either side so I don't have any rough edges. Okay, this is where you're going to have your water, so that can go aside for now, but this is where you're going to grow your plant. Now I said it was self-watering. Okay, this is how we're going to do this. I've got my lid. Now I have already made a hole in that. You're going to need an adult's help for this bit. I had to use my muscles and it's quite tricky. So you've got to puncture a hole somehow. I use some screwdrivers, so I used a pointy one and then a bigger one to get through. Could use some scissors, but please, please, please get an adult to help you. I don't want any injured fingers or hands. Okay, so I've got a hole in my lid now, and I need to, let's get this right around, poke through some string. This is the fiddly bit. And tie a knot so it stays in. Might want to double knot it, that's fine. Your string needs to be the type of string that will absorb water. So this one's quite fabricy. You can get wool, just make sure it's thickish, or you could have several strands of it. The best stuff's that kind of brown garden string, something that will absorb the water, because this is then going to go back onto my bottle top. And remember I said water's going to go in there. It will dangle in and then the water will be absorbed up to where my plant is. Now currently I don't want to stick a plant in here, I need some soil. So I've got my compost. If you've not got compost you can just use garden from your soil, but remember what you've got to do first. Ask your parent before you just start digging up their garden. It doesn't need to be full. It doesn't need to be full to the top anyway. So I'm going to go with about that much, so I've got probably about an inch spare at the top, okay? And I'm going to dampen that slightly because that's currently bone dry, and it probably will be with the weather we've had, most soil. So dampen it slightly, and then we're going to start looking at the plants that we need. Now I've got my damp soil. I've filled the base of my propagator up with water, about there. Probably depends on how far your bottle sits into it, because you're then going to sit it in there. So your water will start to be absorbed by your string to keep this wet, so you won't have to water it every single day. Now, the types of plants that go for propagating. Make sure you've had a read of the sheet that we've sent out, because I've put some examples on there of some easy plants to propagate, because not every plant will. I can't just go snipping any old flower or plant in the garden and hoping for the best. Okay, and you could probably have a read on Google, because there's far better experts out there than me of how to do the certain types of plant that you choose to do, because it probably will be slightly different for each one. But I am doing mint, so I've got our herb mint pot, okay, and where you want to take a snip from, you can just take it with your nails, you don't have to use the scissors, can do if you want, is just from, see here I've got 2 leaves, I'm going to snip it just above it, so then the bit left looks a bit flat, okay, but because here at the base where the leaves are growing is where there's lots of hormones, which are special chemicals, which will then help the growth of roots, because currently that plant will die if nothing happens. But if it starts to grow roots in my soil that's got the water and I put it in the sun it will carry on growing. However, also there is also a lot of chemicals in this plant, growth hormones, in the top part of my plant. So I'm going to take that off because otherwise it's going to focus on growing height instead of roots. Now height's okay, but I need the roots first. Otherwise I'm going to have a tall bit that starts to die because it has no roots to actually take up the nutrients and the water that it needs. Right, so I've got that. Now all I'm going to do is poke it nicely into my soil. So I've kind of put about 2 centimetres of the stem in the soil hidden, and that will do. Yeah. Now, just to make it a bit better propagate, you could leave it at that. If that's all you've got at home, that's fine, you can leave it at that. However, just to speed up the process, I've got a plastic bag. Oh, I'm going to drop that now. I'll balance it on the grass, there we go. I've got a plastic bag, just a food plastic bag. We did it last school year with the blue bags that you have food in, so that's fine, doesn't matter. And I'm going to put it over the top and gently sellotape that round the bottle. I'll show you in a moment so you can see what it's like. Because this will help it be a bit like a greenhouse. I don't want to do it too tight that there's no air in it, or actually there's a small hole in here, that might be a good idea. Okay, so like this, because this will then mean it keeps the heat in, because we know plants like damp, well, water, soil, sunlight, and I don't know what I've said there. Water, sunlight, heat, that helps. And then the soil, okay? Whereas if I now put that in a sunny window, it will get nice and warm to help it grow, and the water will take it up itself. Now, occasionally you might actually have to water it yourself, because in this weather it might get really, really hot, but this will help keep it watered most of the time. Now, if you come back to this plant and take your little leaf out in about 3 weeks time, 2 to 4 probably, you hopefully will see some roots if it's worked. And then I can plant it back in my herb plant as a new plant, and I'll have even more in there. But it will be genetically the same as my parent plant. But it's a lot quicker this way than growing from a seed. Because if I was growing from a seed, it would take a lot longer to germinate and get to the height of probably about that, which it will be by the time I pop it back in the pot. So it lets it be genetically identical and is quicker. And also cheaper, because I've not had to buy a new seed. I've just snipped a bit off my original plant. So, have a go, send in your photos. If you've not got the exact stuff, that's fine. Be creative, see what you can do. And we're excited to see them. You've got until Friday.